And guess what? We are those motherfuckers!
Hey everybody, it's me, Adam. I'm by myself tonight. Austin is having an allergic reaction to a cheeseburger, is what he said. I think he's either got Lyme or mad cow. I'm not sure what's going on. Cody's busy doing some stuff, but Cody will be back next week finally after like a month off because he's going to actually have his office back and he's be able to do the show. Before we get into it tonight, I want to make sure everyone's subscribing and liking and giving us all the internet points we need to succeed. We are on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and now Twitch for the show. So if you're a Twitch viewer, we're on Twitch now. I don't know. I don't do much twitching, but I just want to let you know that that was there. Don't forget now, Tuesday nights at Scofflaw Brewing here in Atlanta, there is a putting league. Sign up around 6:15 to 6:45, starting at 7. For the next couple of weeks, I think it's going to be $5. Just kind of testing it out, getting the system set up. And then In Town Atlanta Disc Golf Club is going to have a league that starts running on January 4th with one of the greatest trophies I have ever seen in my entire life. So if you guys are not abreast of that situation, go follow In Town Atlanta Disc Golf Club on Facebook. Also, the ADGO, the Atlanta Disc Golf Organization, will start their 2022 signups on December 22nd at midnight 01. So first thing on the 22nd. There'll be more information about that coming soon. That's all I got. I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. Our guest tonight is one of the hardest working folks in all of disc golf. She competes at the professional level. She drives around doing tournaments in a giant RV filled with Innova merchandise. It's honestly, she's a road warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Callie McMorran.
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
What's up, Callie? How are you?
Very good.
I'm going to get you on the big screen here. Give me one second. There we go. All right. Okay.
Man, that's a lot of this. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. We can split here. We'll split it up.
No, you're good. You're good.
We're good. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's all about you tonight. So first thing we ask everybody, tell me about the first time you ever played disc golf. I want to know, where was it? What were you throwing and why did you go?
Okay. So mine may be a little bit different. My dad has been around the sport for 21, 22 years now.
All right.
So I am 24 years old, so that's pretty much my entire life. So I honestly don't really remember the first time.
Okay.
I kind of have a funny story of the first thing I remember with disc golf, which was we were playing a very it's a course with a ton of water. So there were lots of water hazards at this course. And my mom, who is, love you, Mom, but she's not the most coordinated woman that's ever played any sport. And my dad had given her, which back then was a huge deal, a tie-dye disc. So that was, it's an Innova disc. And I remember, he's like, don't worry about it. Just throw it. There's no way you're throwing it in the water. Yeah, I went right in the middle of the lake, and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." I may have actually been in a stroller. I don't really remember, but I remember my dad was not very happy about that. So that's kind of a funny memory that I have first thing. And my mom didn't throw a disc again for probably 18 years. So she just got back into the sport a couple years ago, and now she plays more than I do, which is crazy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you're busy. Yeah. You're very busy. Yeah. So on that note, what was your last round?
My last round was at Bud Hill, which is what I call my local course. There's actually a course in Arlington now, but they put that in right as I was leaving for tour. So it wasn't really my home course when I was, up and coming and practicing all the time. So I went and played there. They have a local league every Sunday. It's actually done for the year, but we did a fun doubles match, just a $5 flip up round.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, cool. And that's in Memphis, Tennessee, that area?
Yep, downtown Memphis. It's actually almost on the river, so you can see the pyramid from the course if you go down to the river.
Oh, that's real cool. Sarah Nicholson says, "What up, Callie?"
What's up? Hey, Sarah.
Yes. Sarah's been on the show. She's super rad. We got to have her back, actually.
Yes.
She's been super fun. So cool. And at what point did you think to yourself, I mean, obviously you were kind of born into disc golf in a weird way, but like at what point did you say like, okay, I want to do more with disc golf in my life than just playing on the weekends or playing C tiers and all that?
So kind of crazy also. I was a basketball player.
Mhm.
Pretty much, so it's kind of crazy. So my mom wanted me to be a cheerleader.
Okay.
My mom is she always wanted that baby girl that wanted, Barbie dolls and baby dolls and cheerleading and all that stuff. Well, unfortunately, I was her first girl. So I spent a lot of time growing up with my dad, and they are still together, but she was in school working full time, creating a future for all of us. And my dad was a truck driver. So I spent a lot of time with him playing with Hot Wheels and power tools and anything that is not very girly. So
And now you're driving across the country all the time too. So there you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, so I ended up at the disc golf course quite a bit because my mom later on was like, "Well, do you wanna go shopping? Or you can go with your dad to the woods, he's gonna clean up a course." And I was like, "Yep, I'm grabbing a lawnmower, and we're gonna cut up some trees, and we're gonna have a great old time." So, I have been around disc golf my whole life, but I didn't really ever start competing until my best friend randomly decided, she's like, "We're gonna go to Bowling Green AM Championships." I have no idea what this means. No clue.
Yep.
She's like, "Do you wanna go? We've got the hotel. You've got a decent ride compared to us. Will you drive? We'll cover the hotel." I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything that weekend." Well, I've been playing basketball my whole career up to this point, and when I moved on to college, I went to University of Memphis. I actually had an offer from U of M to play basketball. Ended up turning it down because the whole team sports thing had kind of irritated me one too many times, and I was like, I wanna see who I am without basketball.
Mhm.
So I went to U of M, and, up until this point, I was a total gym rat. I was in
Yeah.
I was on the basketball court 7 days a week, working out, 2+ hours a day, and I went from that lifestyle to, what am I doing after school? Like, there was
Yeah.
nothing to do. I'm like, I don't have to be anywhere. I don't know who to hang out with. Like, my whole life was basketball. So in that, I went with my best friend who had been, it was my freshman year in college. She's like, "You wanna go?" I was like, "Absolutely, give me something to do." I don't even know where we're going. We went to the middle of nowhere in Kentucky,
Yeah.
and I'd signed up originally as intermediate, I believe,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get no offen I'm gonna get my ass kicked. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
about to lose."
Yeah.
So, because I found out later that this is, like, a big deal, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh, it is. Yeah. Bowling. That's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm going, "Okay, well, I'm competitive, so now I don't wanna lose. Now I have to win." So, they ended up giving me a call a couple weeks after I signed up, and they said, "Well, hey, your PDGA rating is too high to play intermediate."
Oh.
'Cause I had played a couple local leagues and, like, maybe a little C tier. Mind you, I have no idea what the
You have no
PDGA
idea
is.
what
I have
they
no
just do a
idea.
math.
I didn't even know I had a rating, okay?
Yeah.
My dad bought me a membership in 2014. I was like, "Great, a card." Threw it in the garbage. No idea what it was. So, I go, they push me up to advance, and I end up winning. And I was like, "Okay." And so now there's, like, sponsorship offers, and I'm going, "I don't know what that means." And so that's kinda how I got hooked. And at that point, I'm like, "Well, now I can't lose. So
Right.
now we
No.
gotta figure out how to actually play this game."
That's when
And there's
basketball
actually
kicks back in, and you're like, I
yeah,
gotta keep.
yeah, so
Yeah.
there's that competitive drive, and I'm like, "Well, I clearly just winged this, so maybe I'm decent at it, but now I need to put the pedal to the metal and start to figure out how to get
Really
better."
figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Correctly, yeah.
Sure. Have you beaten your dad yet at disc golf?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we
Okay.
go
Did
back
you
and
like
forth.
hang that scorecard on the fridge for a week?
Well, he tried to cheat, so
Oh, he did.
yeah, well, growing up playing basketball, if he thought I might start winning, there was a hard foul coming. So it was kind of
Um,
it was kind of like that. So he's like, "No, no, I don't think that that's what happened." And I was like, "Well, Dad, it's hard to cheat a scorecard now. So
you're,
there's no
you calling
referee
your
to
dad a
tell you."
pencil whipper, like in front of everybody right now? Yeah.
No, 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 definitely not. But if it was against me, he might try to pull something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
For
how's
sure.
your mom? You said your mom's back into it, right?
Yeah, so my mom, like I mentioned previously, was not the most athletic person. I think, growing up, I think she may have played softball, but she was one of the kids that was playing in the dirt, not really paying attention to the game.
Sure. Sure.
So
Kicking the
she,
grass. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, God love her. She's amazing. I love my mom. She's a saint. However, sports were not really ever her thing. So
Mm.
she ended up wanting to go. I told her, I kind of made her go. I was like, I'm running a women's league at Bud Hill. It was called Mad Chicks at the time, Memphis Area Disc Golf Chicks. And I was with Dynamic Discs at the time. So I got them to make a cool flyer, branded it. It was really this tiny little thing, but I wanted it to feel really real within Memphis because no one ever does this. None of the women ever get together. So I said, hey, it'd mean a lot to me if you go. And she's like, okay. So this is really comical. So we get there. We're playing the Ridge, which is a smaller course. It's like a carnival style course. Lots of weird mandos, putter holes. Nothing over 300 feet. So we get there. She gets out of her Mustang, and she's like overdressed in athletic clothes. She went and bought an outfit for this. And she gets out, and she's like, was that a mosquito? I was like, yeah, we're like right next to the Mississippi River, Mom, in July. Like, yeah, they're like the size of birds. I don't know how you don't know this. So anyway, so she grabs a can of bug spray because she's like, do you have any? I said, yeah, here. She uses the entire can. She sprays her discs. She sprays herself. She sprays her towel. I was like, you're going to use that to wipe sweat off your face. That's going to
She
burn.
takes a swig of it at some point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, basically. And so we proceed, and she meets all these women. She has a grand old time. I recall her throwing a disc into the woods at one point, and she kind of walked away and was going to throw another one. And I said, you have to go get that. She's like, no, I don't. I make plenty of money. I'm not going to get that. I'll buy another one. So this is how she got introduced to this game. And now this woman will not leave a disc for any reason. She will be, even if that means she sends her husband into the pond, she doesn't leave without it. So she's decked out with a ridge roller and grip bag. She's got a backup bag. She's got one in her Mustang. She's got a backup at the house in case my dad needs to grab it. Yeah, it's crazy.
I was gonna say, when I looked, I went to PDJ to kind of like do some research, and I type in McMorran, and I get 3 from Arlington, Tennessee, and I was like, I see her mom's like 120 something is her number, and I'm like, that's still lower than Brody Smith, so I had to put that in. So
I'll have to tell her that. That'll make her.
It's still lower than Brody, and that's fun. So if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you were running a league?
Well, I was on Dynamic Discs when I was a sophomore in college, which I'm 24 now, so I would guess 20. 19,
yeah,
20.
like that's. Yeah, you seem driven for that sort of thing. And like obviously like your tour schedule is insane, and we're gonna get into that later too. But like have you always been kind of like this entrepreneurial, I'm gonna take it to the extreme kind of person?
Yeah, my mom definitely preaches school. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's a carpenter, so he started his own business. So my mom went down, she works for the government, so she's got your basic like go to school. She has a master's degree, get a good job. She's an occupational therapist. So she followed that route. And then my dad's like, yeah, I'm going to just work for myself, make my own hours. So I got both, worlds coming at me, which I'm super grateful because now where I am now, I can't imagine working for anyone as a 9-to-5 job ever again. But yeah, definitely driven. I actually took a elective class freshman year at University of Memphis, and it was an entrepreneur class. And I learned more from that class than I did economics, accounting, marketing, any of that, because all of that's, pen and paper and book and memorizing it, take the test, forget it. Yeah. And, it really inspired me to go after something. I just didn't know what it was yet. So when disc golf kind of fell in my lap, I said, well, this is something that there's a need for this, and I'm already out there. I might as well make it a business. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, I was going to ask too. You're one of the few rare disc golfers who jumped sponsors in the middle of a season. At one point, it was 2019 or something like that, right? Is that part of this? Like, I'm not getting what I need to make a move thing. Was that a you thing, or was that something?
That was definitely me. Dynamic was very uncomfortable with that. Innova was very uncomfortable with that. They didn't want any sour taste in anyone's mouth, and I said I totally understand that. However, I'm going somewhere.
So figure out who am I going to be with.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that an athlete can have a lot of power if they realize that they don't have to have a sponsor to be credible.
Right.
Like you don't, and that's what I preach to people all the time. You don't, if you think that being sponsored is what makes you a good athlete, you need to reassess what you're
It
thinking.
means you're really good at marketing yourself and you can write a really good email a lot of
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
You'll be with Innova again next year. Is that all
Yes.
signed and inked and everything? Cool.
Yep.
That's fun. And the funny thing with that too is I see all these like open bag, they call them like the open bag sponsorships now, like the Infinite and the OTB deals and all that. And it's going to be strange. I think EV7 is going to stick people the wrong way with like, they can throw everything but putters. We got their putters. I'm like, I don't know people don't like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
yeah.
I could see at some point, like, I'm honestly surprised that no top pro has really just left every manufacturer yet.
Yeah, and just paid
And
for it themselves. Yeah.
and just go get outside sponsors. I think that we're extremely close to that point where there's so much money flowing in right now and there's so much interest in, we're at the peak of the sport right now. Right now you can get a seat in this sport for fairly cheap compared to where I think it'll be in the next 5 years.
Yep.
So I would not be surprised that within the next 2 to 3 years that you have a top elite player that is not sponsored by a manufacturer.
I can see that. Yeah, that's we haven't talked about that on the show. We always talk about like the Infinite deal, but that makes total sense. It's like every time a Johnsonville jumps on, the price tag jumps up for the next guy to jump on, or the next sponsor jump on. So we are definitely. I think we're in the golden era. I think we've got like 3 or 4 more years of explosive growth, and then it's just gonna smooth out a little bit. Personally,
and at that point, I think that a lot of people will regret not getting into the sport because, just like everything, then it's going to cost a small fortune, I think, to finally get on the back of an elite player. Whereas now, even though $1 million sounds like a lot, but when you turn around like Discrafted and sell who knows how many millions in discs, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and at about $1.70 each to make them, something like that. Anyway. Back to Innova just real quick because I'm an Innova nerd, so I have like all these Innova questions I want to ask. But what mold from Innova has like been in your hand the longest? Whether it's before your DD deal or after your DD deal, like what's been like the Innova mold that's been in your bag the longest?
Well, so my dad was a big forehand guy. Back in his prime, he was. And this isn't internet distance, but he could actually throw a forehand about 450 feet. He was bombing forehands.
Yeah.
And, back in the day, that was huge. Now you have to have that. So he threw a lot of bosses. I still have a boss in my bag today, and it is one of the ones that were probably originally in his bag because it does not fly like a boss. It is super flippy. It has the OG Innova stamp on it, and it's still trucking. So it is very flippy. It does not fly like a boss at all, but it's fast enough that it's beat in enough and fast enough that I love throwing it in the wind.
Yeah, it's usable for something, right?
In tailwind, it gets huge carry and is easy to control. Yep.
Yeah. And what's the newest mold that's made it into your bag?
The Invader, the putter.
Yeah. You like that one?
So I originally, everyone's like AVR. Well, I have female hands and they're so deep dished that they're not comfortable in my hands. And if you're an AVR fan, by all means, go get an AVR because I'm not saying it's a bad putter. It just does not feel good in my hand. So I went from Glow DX AVRs, which is like the basic AVR, to Bullfrogs. But the problem with Bullfrogs is they only come in XT plastic, which I don't always need, especially in humidity in Memphis. Like
not in August in Memphis. No. Yeah.
Yeah. It won't come out of your hand. So, and the other issue being that you cannot find them right now because of, weird manufacturing, and they're just trying to keep up with everything. So I went from that to the Invader, which in my opinion is just a shallower Bullfrog with more plastic options. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a shallow guy. I like a tomb. I like a classic rock, stuff like that. So that's cool. Good to hear that. I want to know, a lot of your stamps have tigers on them. What's the significance of the tiger?
So University of Memphis, obviously, even though I dropped out, I learned a lot there. And I do plan on finishing that degree, whether it's this year or next year. So I've only got 3 semesters left. So that's where part of that started from. And then I grew up in Arlington, Tennessee. And so elementary, middle, and high school were all tigers. So it kind of I was like, I need something that, follows me. I need to come up with something that's cool, that will sell, that's still masculine. So guys like it. And I was like, Transformer Tiger, that's unique. Let's go.
That's it.
So that's awesome. What we got.
I love that. That's cool. I like that you take it. It's like a little bit of home coming with you too, which is good.
Definitely. Yeah. All the Memphis people love it because they know exactly what it means.
That's awesome. Very cool. I noticed, some of these, we were talking about the big contracts, obviously guys making $1 million, 10 million, whatever Paige is getting. They never really told us what Paige is making. Do you think some of these marquee contracts are going to affect the way other team players are being treated by the manufacturer? Like, are manufacturers struggling to make the big contracts happen, or do you think there's enough money that it's going to be just fine?
I think that it depends. If you're, if you're with a manufacturer that you're not allowed to go get other bag sponsors or shoe sponsors or other things like that, I think it's going to be more difficult unless the manufacturer comes up with the money themselves. But by limiting players with that, because that was I love dynamic disc, but by limiting dynamic, I couldn't get any other sponsors. So they forced my hand. I had to leave. Whereas
I mean, you couldn't have a grip sponsor. You couldn't.
Yeah. Whereas maybe, had they allowed that with what the contract they were giving me, maybe I would have stayed. So I think that has a huge play in it. Because I know Prodigy's kind of picky about that stuff too. So I think with Discraft and Innova, what's amazing is as long as you give them a heads up, you can go get Infinite and Millennium and Grip and whatever you want, Adidas, all that stuff. So
you could throw the Infinite stuff if you wanted to, right?
So I can. I just have to have a written contract with them, and I have to give them a heads up. And they still encourage us to bag majority Innova.
You can't go pluck something off a shelf and throw it though. You have to. It's got to get checked off or whatever.
I mean, I probably could, but I respect the hell out of them. So I would.
You want to do it right. I got you. Yeah, I got you. I don't want to get too. I don't mean to pry at all.
No,
obviously, Grip is another big sponsor of yours. Do you have any other sponsors that aren't stuff we see all the time on your shirt or anything?
Yeah, so I have dry sacks. They are made in Tupelo, Mississippi, and because I grew up in Memphis, their humidity has always been a huge factor in playing disc golf. Whereas I came from an indoor sport where that was never a thing.
Right.
So switching from that, I really needed a good dry sack, and I loved the ones that Dynamic made years ago when they were clay. I believe they were clay. They worked amazing, and then their new ones were not so great. And then I switched to Innova, and Innova made a batch of them that were clay, and the new ones are those plastic beads. So I was like, that's just not enough for Memphis, right? So there's a guy that hand makes all these in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I can give you the information if you want to post about it later. But they're absolutely amazing. They're handmade. He has awesome cloth, just like many of other manufacturers, but they're genuinely the best chalk bag I've ever used.
Awesome.
Without all the extra hype.
We definitely want to pump up anything you want to pump up. And at the end of the show, we'll make sure you have plenty of time to tell everybody how to buy everything with your name on it. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
That's awesome. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, and I reached out to you about this, is because the way you tour, it's not exact. It's pretty unique, but it's also like you are grinding your tour. Like, you're not just competing, you're competing well. You weren't outside of the top 20 except for a DNF this year on anything you did.
Yeah, which I can give you more insight on that too, because that'll make a whole lot more sense.
I was going to say, because it looked like it was at the last round or second round or something.
Yeah, it was middle of the tournament. Yep. So if we want to get into that, we can start there. I was at it's not GBO anymore. Dynamic
DBO now,
yeah. So I was there. I had talked to Innova. They wanted me to vend, and unfortunately, with lack of communication and just things just didn't work out with the schedule, I wasn't going to be there in time at the bonfire to actually set up the rig to sell, because my round wasn't going to be done yet.
Oh yeah.
So I wasn't playing well anyway, which is no excuse to quit, because I had to call my dad, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I've never quit anything before. I feel obligated to finish, but if I finish, then I'm, and I'm not probably going to make cash.
Who should I piss off? Yeah.
So I'm like weighing my options, and I made the tough call to actually drop out. And while doing that, because I have a friend that was in town that week, so I was like, you go finish your round. I'm going to go drop the trailer, set it up. I'll be right back with the truck. So I actually picked her up after her round and then brought her over to help me sell stuff. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, yeah. And I bring it up just because that was the only time you were out of the top 20 on anything you competed in FPO. And you're also doing a whole lot of other stuff besides competing in FPO. And, with the trailer stuff. And you were just saying, like, trying to set up and sell. I was at Fly Mart at AM Worlds with you, and I was the guy who showed up at the very, very last second trying to put his menu board together, sit next to Johnny McRae, because I made the mistake of playing AM Worlds and then trying to vend for hats.
Yeah.
Not a good. No, it didn't work for me. But so tell everyone everything you do, because you're vending, you're doing tournaments on the off weekends, you're competing, you're crisscrossing the country in an enormous vehicle. Like what is your like weekly routine out there?
So at some point, number one, I have to figure out when I'm going to play. That's usually the hardest thing to figure out. So practicing has, at least this year, been on the back burner, which I hate to say that because being a dedicated athlete prior to disc golf, that really hurts my heart.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that you have the ability, like you said, to go out and normally take top 10, but at the worst top 20, and to kind of put that on the back burner. But anyway, so with that said, I pull a 30-foot travel trailer. It is a toy hauler, so the shop is actually in the back and the extra inventory is in the front. I ripped out the front bedroom. I remodeled the whole thing. I have it wrapped, full with a big old F-250 diesel. We're a Ford family, so definitely wasn't allowed to get a Chevy or a GMC. My dad told me I could not park it in the driveway. So with that said, I pull that thing. That thing is a beast. I had a couple blowouts this year, but I drag that thing everywhere. We're running clinics. When I say we, I mean my dog and I.
Yeah, nice.
We're vending. We're running C tiers. We're running flex stars. We're running doubles events. Next year I'll be running USDGC doubles qualifiers. I've already got 2 tournaments sanctioned for next season and working on a whole bunch more. But I will be playing, at least as of now, I will be playing pretty much the entire tour next year. So that'll be totally different. Yeah, because I feel like all my friends, I have to watch them play every weekend. And I'm like, dang, Missy, you missed that putt. I could have made that putt. So
I'm sure it's like if you watch a
the pressure,
basketball
yeah.
game and you're like, oh, I want to play,
Oh, yeah, because I was never the type of person that went to the game because I'm like, if I do that, I'm going to want to play. I can't watch sports on TV hardly. So, yeah. Yeah. So watching them, and I'm so happy for Missy and all my friends this year, but I wanted to be out there with them.
Yeah.
So it's been tough. But sales have been crazy. And I've been just pushing my own business. So what a lot of people don't know is I actually own all the product.
Right. Okay. You're not an Innova surrogate. You are Callie McMorran LLC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's actually what I'm filing my taxes under and everything.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
That's actually the name.
Guessed.
Yep. You threw that out there. How creative.
That's great. I know, right? For LLC is the same thing. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. So I'm vending. So my passion is sales. It always has been. Mm-hmm. My parents usually buy a vehicle once a year, and I was in there negotiating their vehicle deals when I was like 6, and they said, "Hey, you want to go work for Ford when you're 16?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was 16, and I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." So
yeah. That's a bit much.
So love negotiating, love contracts, love all that stuff. I love sales. I love talking to people. I love, especially when I believe in the product, and that's why I love Innova. And I don't accept sponsors unless I actually believe in their products.
Right.
Because I don't want to support somebody that I don't think is doing it right.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You can't put your name on it, right? Especially in a sport where your name is going to be on it no matter what, yes. Right? Yeah. Yes. Are there any other players out there doing anything like what you're doing that you know of? I've never seen anyone. Maybe Jason Schwakey out of Oklahoma. He's doing a little bit of it. But he's not playing at your level, and he's not doing the clinics that you're doing, I don't think.
No, and that's honestly been the hardest thing is balance. Trying to figure out without hiring somebody how to do all of it myself. And it's made me go crazy a few times, but so next year I'm working on fixing some of those problems. Even this year I flew my dad out to AM Worlds to help me vend because I was like, it's going to be 110 degrees every day. I have to build up and break that setup down 2, maybe 3 times a day. And it takes me on average about an hour to get all that set up. So, and get it looking the way that I want it to. So that's definitely been a challenge. And that's what Innova, when we have conversations, that's always their thing. They check in on me, make sure I'm good. And I love a challenge.
Yeah.
But I've got to figure that one out. So that's been what I've been working on during the off season. I'm actually switching my POS system so everything will be inventoried, so then I can actually hire help and not have to worry about things wandering off or anything like that. So
Right. And you had some of the hottest product at World's Fly Mart too, because you had the Halo Rock 3s, was it? And
yeah,
the
Rock
Halo Mako
3s
3?
and Mako 3s. Yep.
And you had like 30 of each or something like that.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
it wasn't
was
very
not much.
many. Yeah, it was about
Yeah.
30 apiece.
I remember that line was longer than the line for Paul and Paige at one point, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That was good. Do you think having the business and being able to know that you're still making money onto it, you're still buying gas, everything's going to be good, does that take some of the pressure off the competition for you? And is that good or bad for you to have the pressure maybe lowered a little bit?
So I don't know. I was never in disc golf for the money because when I started, you'd be a fool to be in disc golf for the money.
Well, of course. Yeah.
You know, whereas where we are now, you can actually make a living off of it. So I definitely, like, the first year when I started, things were definitely tight, which definitely added some pressure that I'd never experienced before, because in basketball, that's not really what we're doing. So, yes, it takes off some pressure, but it honestly puts more pressure on me to prove myself that, hey, I'm still over here. I
Okay.
might be, tossing some frisbees around, selling some stuff while we're doing it, but I'm still over here and I'm still competing. So
I'm still slinging. Yeah.
Yep. So it drives me more than anything. But yeah, there is some pressure there to be like, and honestly, it's to prove it to myself. It's to nobody else. I want to make sure I didn't get left behind in the process of building a business.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you look forward to the off season, or do you kind of sit there and get antsy the whole time?
I lose my mind. I have no idea. I have been sitting here. I'm like putting barcodes on discs, driving my parents crazy. I'm like, y'all need help with anything? What are we doing?
Just cleaning another spot in the RV. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, what I've done is I've been running putting league here. There's a hangover classic January 1st at Bud Hill, which will be an absolute blast and a hangover deal for sure. So I've just created a Facebook event because it's not sanctioned, but I'm like, I want to make flyers and I want to work. So my schedule is basically done 8 months into next season already. And I'm over here like, I'm like, now what do? I have no idea. So I'm just kind of waiting to get to Arizona and then kick it off again.
Nice. Are you, what's your favorite part of touring and what's the most tedious part of touring?
Favorite part of touring to me is just freedom. I can go and do anything I want. And the most tedious is driving this thing.
Yeah.
And it's, it's not bad on a normal day, but if it's windy or, my GPS says turn right and there's a 7-foot tall bridge and I'm going, well, we're going to have to back up out of here. So that's, that's definitely the worst part of my experience, but we've been fine. I'll figure it out. So that's definitely the most tedious though.
Awesome. I do want to talk about your game a little bit. If you were going to describe the way you play disc golf to someone who hadn't seen you play, but they know what disc golf is, how would you describe your style of play?
Smooth and steady. I'm in there to win the race. I'm not a very flashy player. I'm not a very risky player until we get down to like the last 6 holes. So I'm gonna.
You're checking scores. You're a score checker. You know where you are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do better under pressure. So I'm like, yep, bring it on. I gotta have this putt to make an extra $100 or whatever. It's probably going in. So
it's going in.
That's just how I am. Yeah.
All right. Big bomber. Do you like the woods? Do you like hitting fairways? Like, what's your favorite shot? What's your favorite shot?
Forehand approach. Honestly, just accuracy. I was a shooter in basketball, so putting and forehand approach is definitely, I love it because it's simple to me. You see the target, hit the target. So, yeah.
Do you like practicing solo or do you like to practice with somebody whose game you know and trust?
I like practicing with anyone. I cannot go play golf by myself. I think, and that may come back to basketball, but I get so bored. And I realized halfway through that I'm like, you're wasting your time. You're not even thinking about what you're doing. You're just throwing the frisbee. We don't know what we're doing. So
yeah, it's like that. If you don't practice at the pace of a tournament and then you go play a tournament, it just doesn't work. That sort of thing too. Sometimes I feel like I go out there and I'll sling like 3 things off the tee. I'm like, I'm not learning anything doing this.
Yeah, and for me, like, this is going to sound weird, but I need something on the line. It doesn't have to be money, but I need to compete. So if I'm going to go play a practice round, I need you to be like, hey, I bet you $1 I beat you this round. I'm like, it's on. Let's go.
Just wave it in your face.
Bet that $1, you're going to beat me.
Oh, right, because you're going to be lackadaisical, whatever. You just need to turn it on.
I do not get it at all. But as soon as it's tournament time, it's a totally different player. You can ask Jennifer Allen because we played a lot of practice rounds together, and it used to drive her crazy because I would practice like absolute shit. And then I'd get to the tournament, and she's like, "What? How? You didn't do that at all in practice?"
Are you hustling me? Yeah. She throws really far, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, she's scary. I messaged her. I might have to see if you can put a bug in her. I messaged her. I never heard back from her. I wanted to have her on the show.
I'll nag her. I talked to her this morning, so I'll give her
appreciate it. Cool.
Yeah.
What do you think? You're obviously Memphis, Tennessee. I'm Atlanta, Georgia. Is woods golf a purer form of disc golf than converted ball golf course disc golf?
So I like both, but I think that disc golf to me was designed in the woods. So I feel like to be a true disc golfer, you have to be able to play in the woods. However, I think with the growth of the sport, I think that ball golf courses are where it's going to end up, and where it needs to be, because then you have better cell reception, you have more spectator room, you're not on top of each other, and it's just easy fall flight. It is entertainment, but it's not the same thing. So
sure. It's funny. We had Will Schuster on last week, and literally my thing here says, last week Will Schuster came on, and his whole thing is he's designing all these courses now, and he's designing them with spectators in mind.
Yes.
And it begs my question. Like, I grew up skateboarding, so it's like, is the pure street skateboarder who's hitting handrails like really bummed out that he has to go skate at a skate park now? Is it the same kind of like the woods is where disc golf was born, but now we have these like big safe area, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just going to come down to the people that aren't good in open courses are going to complain. Whereas, and that's just how it's going to be. I appreciate both. I like my favorite course, but again, it's a terrible spectating course. But I think Waco is an amazing course because half and half, and then you deal with wind and you don't deal with wind, but you deal with tight lines and you have to hit your line, or you have to, so you play all of that. You've got water hazard, you have everything. But there's nowhere for spectators.
Right. Would you rather play in the rain or play in the cold?
The cold.
What about rain versus wind?
The wind.
The wind, yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. What do you think about like something like Winthrop, where everything changes, where they change stuff all the time? Good, bad.
I think that Winthrop is very entertaining.
Yeah.
I think that it's a great way to cap off the season because it takes what we've all been used to all season and flips it completely over.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Like, you're going to get penalized. If you blink, you're going to go OB.
Yep.
So, and I think it allows different people to win, which I really appreciate.
And that is kind of fun. It's fun to see at the end of the year. I always wondered if the clout of it was a little misplaced because of how wacky it is, quote unquote. Yeah. But it is different. I mean, it's just, the people who play well in the woods can play well at Winthrop too. So, for sure. This year was a weird one for the PDGA. And, next year they're going to take a step back on the national tour a little bit. And one of the things that we saw a lot of this year with, especially, Paige said some things, and some other of the FPO field had some complaints about some things that happened on tour, whether they were the PDGA's fault or local TDs or anything. Is there anything as an FPO player specifically that just drives you nuts when you go to a tournament and it's done a certain way?
Lack of attention to detail.
Okay.
Especially coming from me, because I run a lot of events, so I have a different point of view versus, there's a few people on tour that are going to complain regardless of how well or how bad you do it. It's just, it is what it is. And you have that in everything that we do. In life.
You have that at Walmart,
Yeah, right? You parked wrong, or you're
8 times more likely to see something.
Especially with COVID going on, right? Everyone is worried about what you're doing, not themselves. So with all of that said, I think that just lack of attention to detail drives me insane. Especially when it was solely caused on a TD not willing to ask for help. When you have too much on your plate and you don't know how to delegate, or the people that say that they will handle it don't handle it, that bothers me. Big time.
Sure. Like painting OB lines, stuff like that. Or moving. There was some moving basket stuff that we heard about, which was on. They hit it pretty well in the coverage. We didn't hear anything about it except for some of the players complaining. But when they were switching over from MPO to FPO and they had to move baskets, some of those things weren't done for half an hour on a couple of holes or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I heard, there were complaints at Worlds. My dad plays Masters, so I was at Tim Selinsky, and the TD was amazing.
Yeah.
However, like, it's a major, and on 18, well, throughout the entire course, but on 18, and I cannot remember the course, but it's a really difficult course up in Missouri. There's tons of OB, and they flagged it with flags. There's no painted line, and they put like a trillion little flags out there. And I'm like, the line is like this. So you have no idea. Were you in or were you out? We have no idea. And if your disc hits it, the flag's gone. So just little things like that. And, it wasn't that they didn't put effort into it, but I think that's just lack of, honestly, the PDGA or someone needs to come up with a list of things that these are required. This is the standard.
Especially if you're talking about national tour, A tier, and majors.
At Hornets Nest, I played the Carolina Clash. I didn't play the championship, but 17 to 18 there, you have to either wait on 17 for 18 to tee, or you have on 18, you feel obligated to wait on 17 to finish from the FPO layout because it's tucked in the woods. Yeah. So, I was talking to a few card mates, and I'm like, they really need to just come up with a book where they go, there's required this much space between this tee box and this fairway or whatever. There just needs to be a distance. Yeah. That's just regulated, and then it's normal, and then you don't have to worry about any of that. Because I think at USDGC Winthrop, they do an amazing job with OB lines because they I don't know if they use a weed eater or what, but they're like dug into the ground and then they're staked, and if it's red, it's OB, if it's yellow, it's hazard, and there's no question about it.
Yeah, it's just done. It's not the what is it, the grass hanging over the sidewalk, but it's elevated.
Yep. You can look at it, and there's no reason to look at the rule book. You already know.
I did like at one, I forget what tournament I went to, but somebody goes, if you spend more than 10 seconds deciding if it's in or out, it's in. Like that's what they said. They're like, if you have everyone in the card standing there looking at it and benefit goes to the player and you guys can't make a decision. Yeah.
And that's the rule. Like, benefit goes to the player. So I would agree to that to an extent.
Not when it's for thousands of dollars, maybe, but like at the B
tier, the last hole and everyone's waiting on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And having seen the PDGA run some tournaments, running tournaments yourself, and seeing what the DGPT is doing with the switch next year, do you think the DGPT will be able to improve on some of these issues that the FBO players have been worried about?
Absolutely. And Jeff Spring's amazing, and he has a team that backs him. And they've learned so much, I think, in the last 2 years, especially last year, though.
Yeah.
And they've already been through one of the craziest seasons we could ever predict, which was the COVID season. So I think that they're prepared for pretty much anything you throw at them at this point. Yeah. But I think that it bothers me when there's a huge difference between US women's and USDGC, because you can clearly see the difference. And a lot of that has to do with money, and I understand that. But I also believe that, and this is not trying to direct anything at the PDGA, but I believe that they have plenty of money to fill that gap if that was a priority to them.
Yeah, and I think, and part of the thing, and we've asked people this too. Now that the PDGA is we assume they're going to have more resources available because they're not spending the time and money on the tour. What areas? I mean, there are areas they're definitely going to have more time to work on. But like if they're backing off of the tour and they have this money to spend, where should the PDGA spend it? Is it training tournament directors? Is it growing the sport in a different way?
I think that they need to go to every single elementary school, every single public elementary school, and install a basket.
Yep, there you go. That's the number one answer we get for that question too here. And
I think that that's the best thing that they could do with that money. And it would mean the world to hundreds of kids versus us going, oh, hey, there's one more porta potty on the course today. Did anyone notice that? I just don't think that that's where the money should go.
No, and I think also we had Leah Sinigini on recently, and basically she said the same thing, and that would be and the question she answered was, how do we grow the diversity of the sport? She goes, put it in schools. Yep. Just put a basket in schools, and then you can put a basket in a school for $300. You probably do it for cheaper. You can probably call up Innova and be like, hey, we're trying to do this thing. And they'll be like, absolutely. We'll cut you a deal. We'll cut you a deal. Yeah.
Well, and I'll cut you a deal. I mean, I've always said that when I do clinics at schools, I'm like, I'm not trying to make anything off of this because it's important to me. I value this, and it should be important to the PDGA, and it should be important to anyone that has any investment into this sport, because the kids are where we need to be focused on. That's your JV team to your varsity team. That's where you need to start.
And it's funny, like you might be the exception to the rule, but everybody I know is like, I wish I started playing disc golf when I was 10 years old or 15 years old or 18 years old. You know,
Yeah.
you're trying to remember when you first played. I get that, but you understand the importance of it at a young age. One other question about this PDGA stuff, and then we'll get into some more fun stuff too. Do you think at one point the PDGA, or a couple of times, the PDGA has kind of said, in specific reference to some of the high-level FPO players talking about the shortcomings, they have said publicly, like, we'd prefer that criticism to come to us privately and not be a public thing. Do you agree with that stance, or does it send the wrong message to say to some of the FPO players, hey, why don't we pipe down a little bit? Why don't you call us or text us or email us about it instead?
So I'm not quite sure what you're referencing. Could you?
There was a thing with when Paige was complaining about one of the tour routes that meant she couldn't practice. The practice days were shortened or whatever. And then we had Justin Callie on our show who said something about it, but he's not a good example. But there's some other folks who have said in the past, like, we really wish the pros wouldn't put us on blast. We wish they would call us.
Yeah, I think that if that's the case, that it needs to go both ways. I think that the PDGA, honestly, to me, they're like a ghost. I don't really know, other than the guys that are setting up the feather banners. Like, I don't really know, and maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I also don't stick around the course a ton to like meet everybody. I do shake a lot of hands, but I think that it goes both ways. I think that they need to reach out to us and be like, we are accessible, maybe a little bit more. Like, hey, if you do have any problems, we're here, and we actually will listen and we will react to what you're giving us, versus in one ear out the other, or I don't even know where the door is to open it. You know what I mean? So I think that's just lack of communication on both ends. And then we feel spiteful in a way because you can clearly see the difference of a lot of these events. So, and they're wanting to hide it, and I get why they want to hide it, but also we need another avenue to communicate with them.
Yeah, the way they kind of bring it up is kind of like, well, you never want to see a fire truck. You just want to know there are fire trucks available. And like, I'd like to see the fire trucks every now and then to make sure they're still available.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to get into the fun stuff now. Are you cool for like 15 more minutes? Is that good?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we usually try to stick to an hour because I got to eat dinner at some point and all that. You've done a lot of stuff in the disc golf industry. You're still doing stuff in the disc golf industry. Is there anything that you've not done that you're ready to dip your toes into, like course design or something like that?
So I've done course design.
You have done okay.
A little bit. Nothing on a major scale, but my dad and I have probably installed between 5 and 10 courses in Memphis alone. Just
awesome. I had no idea. I'm sorry to bring it up.
No. And I don't know, I don't know how much we really had played a hand in designing it, but we definitely installed them. So we critiqued courses. How about that? We didn't really design them, but we were like, this is stupid. We need to change this.
Yeah, we need 35 feet of this and cut the privet out.
Yeah. Like, what are we doing? We're going to hurt somebody here. So, things that I want to get involved in. Well, at some point I would like to basically be another Infinite Discs. That's kind of my end game goal. I don't have any idea how long that's going to take. But that is I'm definitely more on the retail side of things. And to me, transparency, I value that a ton. And I see it lacking in the sport often, just throughout a lot of different things. But that's very valuable to me. And so I would love to own and operate my own company. And transparency would basically be the whole icon of the
It's hard to make a stamp of transparency, but it'll work. You know what I mean?
Well, we'll make it happen.
You'll make it. It'll just be a glass window pane with your,
right.
Your name.
Like, what is that? It's transparency.
Transparency. It's the disc golf brand. That's good. Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Fun questions now. This is one of my favorites. I'm going to give you the keys to the Innova factory for the night. No one knows you're in there. You can make anything you want to make. The Halo Polecat's taken. Other than the Halo Polecat, what are you making?
Man, well, I have no idea.
Need like a Champ Invader? Do you need like a KC Pro Wombat? Like what do you need?
I would probably want a Metal Flake Glow Roadrunner.
I have a Metal Flake, but I don't have Metal Flake Glow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would want. That's like my favorite disc. That's the go-to.
I have 3 in the bag, and I rock a Metal Flake, a Halo, and a Champ. Because
So someone sent me a Halo. I threw it a few times, and I threw it
beefy.
like garbage, so it did not go in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it like a beat Wraith. I don't even use it like a real Wraith. It's real weird. It wants to dive. That's cool. What do you do? Are you max weight drivers? Are you something else? What is your weight range on?
Usually max weight, and I think that just has a lot to do with what was available when I started playing, because
Sure.
lightweight wasn't really a big thing back then. You didn't have a lot of air plastic or anything like that. So
They beat in, you know.
yes, it is beaten. Yeah, usually I get my team series stuff in, my team stamp stuff, and I'm like, hey dad, go play with that for 6 months, and then I want it back. So,
That's great. You have an R&D team for your own personal bag.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay. What is your celebratory meal? Like, you're on the road, you just sold $1 billion worth of discs, or you just won the worlds. Where are you going, and what are you having?
Probably Chipotle.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
What's your Chipotle order?
Oh man. So I'm happy you asked this. So get there, I want a bowl. I want black beans, white rice, steak, extra pico de gallo. I'm like a Mexican freak. I could eat Mexican food every single day. I almost do.
He is charged.
If you ask any of my friends, I basically do. Pico, corn, cheese, sour cream, and cilantro, and that's probably gonna do it.
Nice. If you could play in a doubles round with any celebrity, alive or dead, as your partner, who is your celebrity doubles partner?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, yeah, just broke the record 2 nights ago.
I know. I watched it. I watched Golden State like a hawk. Yeah.
Oh, you do? That's your team? Yeah.
Steph's my boy, so I will follow him wherever. But I've been watching him since they won their first championship. That's when he really caught my eye, obviously. But I was pretty young then, and I just was like, "Yep, I love him."
Yep,
I
played
a lot like him, so yeah.
The shooter. I heard a crazy statistic that he came in the league in 2009. The average amount of 3-pointers per game was like 18. And now it's like 30 plus or 35 plus. Like, he's changed basketball. It's
I mean, seriously, because it used to be, everyone would be like Mike, and then everyone wanted to be like Kobe, and then LeBron, and he's changed the entire league. Like, NBA games are played different. You have to have a 3-point shot. I'm waiting to see when they either raise the goal or put the 4-point spot out there, or make the court longer. They're going to have to do something within, I could see, the next 20 years, because everybody's getting bigger and faster and stronger and
better. Yeah. I mean,
everything.
Yeah, it's kind of, we always you always have the argument, is Michael Jordan better than LeBron? Is whoever better than whoever? Is Paul better than Kenny? That sort of thing the whole time. And I've always said, like, well, without Kenny, Paul wouldn't play disc golf the way he plays it, and without Steph Curry, the next guy is not going to play. Without Ray Allen, Steph Curry wouldn't play basketball that way. That's LeBron plays Mike's game, plays it better. That sort of thing. So
see, and I'm over here like, I respect LeBron's game. I don't like LeBron. So you have that, right?
I was a Michael Jordan kid. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard a crazy story about you and Haley King on tour in Oregon, and a guy ran into the back of your RV, but not like with his vehicle. Like, he physically ran into the back of your RV and tried to get you for insurance or something. What is this?
It was crazy. So that was a crazy year. But so we were at a gas station, and at the time it was a 22-foot Mercedes Freightliner little motorhome thing, whatever. And my parents had bought that from me. So this is kind of something you might want to know. So when I first decided to drop out of college and go on tour, my parents told me, we'll back you for the first year, and after that you have to figure it out. So that's basically how I started into sales so quickly. But anyway, so this was the first year. So my parents were paying for this motorhome, but we were paying for all the expenses that came along with it. So they paid the note, and I had everything else. So we were getting gas, and I don't know if you know this, but in Oregon, you're not legally allowed to pump your own gas.
It's like New Jersey's the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy works at the gas station. He is in one of these neon vests, and I pulled up, and I wasn't lined up right. So I start backing up, and the motorhome has a camera. Yeah. And I look in the camera, and I'm just coasting. My foot's not on the pedals at all. I'm just backing up. And next thing I know, Haley's like, I see somebody. So I popped the brake. And so then he comes around, and we didn't feel anything or anything like that.
No.
So he comes around to the driver's side, and he goes, "You hit me." And I was like, "Oh, great." So I'm like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Well, where were you?" And he's like, "You hit me."
That's all I said.
I'm like, "That's all you got for me, huh?" So I said, "Well, are you okay?" Like, because I am concerned.
Sure.
But immediately, okay, I was born and raised in Memphis, and I can see a scam.
Oh yeah,
from about a mile away. So I'm like, I'm over here like, "Oh, your neck? Is it your neck?" So
is it your neck? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, so I bumped into you, or you bumped into me, however you want to look at this. So he walks around, and then he's like, "You hit me." Well, next thing I know, he's messing around, and then he's like, "You hit me." I said, "You're holding the wrong arm." And he goes, "No, you hit me." I said, "Well, it was this arm, and now it's this arm. So where did I hit you?" So anyway, I'm like, okay. So, and it was a nightmare, because at this point I'm like, so you're lying. You're not actually hurt. And me just, judging the book by the cover, I was like, well, I'm going to need $100 on this pump. And are you going to do it, or do I need to do it? Because I need the diesel.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. I'm not leaving without it. So he didn't pump it. I had to go inside, paid for this diesel. Well, they gave me the wrong change bag. And so I talked to the lady behind the cash register, and I said, "Hey, do you know anything about this guy? He says he works here. He's in a yellow vest. He looks like he works here, but he doesn't look like he was trained." So she's like, "Yeah, I caught him stealing from the register this morning." And I'm going, "You have got to be kidding me." This is like a movie scene. So I'm like, okay, well, he claims I just hit him. Is there any way you can send me the recording? And she's like, "Oh, those cameras don't work."
Oh my
Of
God.
course not. So anyways, this guy saw all this happen. He's like, "Hey, this is my card. If you need anyone to testify as a witness, I will happily do it. That was a total setup. You did not hit him." And well, anyway, so then we're off wherever we are at this point. Maybe back in Memphis. And I get a phone call, and I didn't recognize the number, answer it, and they're like, "Hey, is this Callie McMorran?" And I was like, "Yes, it is. Hey, I'm on a podcast." Okay. Yeah, so sorry about that.
All good.
And so they call me, and they're like, "Is this Callie McMorran?" I said, "Yes, it is." They're like, "Well, this is the something city police. You were involved in a hit and run." And I'm going, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Was it at a gas station?" "Yes, ma'am. This man is severely injured. He's been at the ER." So anyway, so then they get me. My insurance pays him out. I'm mad.
Oh my God.
I'm like, "I want to sue him. Let's sue him." They're like, "No," because you know how big insurance companies. They're like, "We'll just pay him off." So now this is on my record.
This guy doesn't have any money to sue him anyway, probably.
Yeah. Now this is on my record.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that happened like that. Yeah. I read an interview with Haley King when she was talking about it, and I was like, I got to know this story. This is insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, they called me, and the cop was so mad. He was pissed at me.
Like, furious. Yeah, like you actually did this on purpose or something.
Yeah. And then, fun fact, they got the video. And so my insurance goes, "Well, you bumped him. He probably had some," I forget the term they use, light tissue damage, a bruise.
A bruise. Yeah, that's a bruise.
At most. Yeah. So anyway,
this guy who just stole from the gas station that he worked at. Yeah.
Well, and a fun fact, they gave me the wrong change back. I had to go back to the same gas station, like an hour later.
Oh my God. That is a nightmare, and I applaud you for continuing to tour after that. I would have been like, forget it, I'm done. This is terrible. Yeah.
Well, I'm way stronger than that. They're gonna have to throw a whole lot more at me to quit than that. So I was like,
you're gonna have to actually hit somebody for you to stop doing.
Yeah. Well, now I have a dash cam in front and back of my truck, so
yeah,
good luck.
Well worth it. Well worth it. I see you do play in headphones sometimes, not all the time. Is that right?
Yeah, I go back and forth, but I do have to chew gum, and I have to have my Lucky Mini that my mom bought me 7 years ago. I've had the same Mini for 7 years. It's a metal dynamic disc Mini, but it has a throw pink sticker over it because Innova doesn't make metal Minis. So
right, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, I was going to ask about superstitions. That was a good one. I was going to say, what are you listening to when you're playing? If you are listening to headphones, what are you listening to?
Everything. I'm
Okay.
in Memphis, but I was raised in Tennessee, so it's country, rap,
Sure.
indie, everything.
3-6
Anything.
Mafia, Travis Tritt,
Oh,
whatever.
definitely. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What is, if you're driving by yourself, long drive, what is the guilty pleasure song you're belting out to yourself in the truck?
Pretty much anything Morgan Wallen. I got my Spotify information back for the end of the year, and it's like, congratulations, you're in the top 2% of listeners of Morgan Wallen. I was like, that is not a compliment. That is
I was the top 0.5% of Run the Jewels this year.
Yeah.
I gotta lay off the Run the Jewels. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the most important question we ask all of our guests. Take a good hard think on this one. What is your Waffle House order?
I don't go to Waffle House.
What? Oh, you don't? Do they have them in Memphis or yeah?
Oh, they have them. They're everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
If I go to Waffle House,
Uh-huh.
it's because I should be at home already.
Well, I was gonna ask. Like sometimes my Waffle House order changes if it's in Sunday morning or Saturday night. So yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, which is why it's super, super rare. I think I've only been to Waffle House like twice.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
Yeah.
so fair.
No idea.
It's something greasy then, probably then, right?
Definitely greasy. Something
greasy and
gonna
coffee.
fill you up and then you pass out at the house.
Gotcha. Okay, we're gonna play a little game we like to play on the show. It's called Dope or Nope. I'm gonna ask you 5 things. You get to say whether or not they are dope or nope, but you don't get to explain your answers.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. It's usually pretty fun. So okay, so dope or nope. People who make carts for disc golf out of baby strollers.
Nope.
Okay. For you, the first one to say nope, and I applaud you for it. Okay. Having a duck for a pet.
Dope.
Okay. Visors.
Dope.
Okay. Cat Merch will be happy you said that. Okay. Having duck for dinner.
Dope.
Oh, I did not expect that. Okay. and the last one, Juliana Korver winning Rookie of the Year. Dope or nope?
Nope.
Oh, you're a nope on that one. Okay. These are the answers for all of time. There it is. We got you. Awesome. Cool. I am going to give you the floor, Callie. I'm going to put you on the big screen, let you tell everybody how to follow you, how to support you, where you're going to be next. You can tell them goodbye. We'll talk to you soon. I know Paul Bell from Atlanta wants to get you down here to do a flex start seats here at some point. So
gotcha.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Do you have any plans for New Year's by any chance?
I believe I will be in Memphis just hanging out with some friends and family.
We do a pregame New Year's show where everybody comes on for 5 minutes and we ask them 3 questions and do a shot with us and send them off. I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in, but
that sounds right up my alley. Yeah, you should.
Perfect. It'll be 7:30 again, so it'll be nice and early for you. But I'm going to put you on the big screen. Tell everyone how to follow you. Say goodbye. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Cool.
So Callie McMorran here, about to sign off, but feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's Callie_McMorran_64751. Same thing on Facebook. If you're in the market for anything Innova or grip, I'm your girl. Thanks.
I keep doing that. I keep muting myself when the guests are saying goodbye and forgetting to unmute myself. Sorry, guys. Again, this was FrolfCenter. Thanks a lot. We may or may not have a guest next week. We had a guest on the line. We've got to figure out a deal with a scheduling, and it's a West Coast guest, so if they're not off of work in time, that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks again to Callie McMorran. We'll see you guys next week no matter what. See you guys. Bye.
Shoppers, can I get a fucking... Oh, yeah! Thank you.